turning to some bigger picture retail sales data as we get the opening bell this morning. Maybe it's appropriate to talk about this. JP Morgan and the team over there out with some interesting data on fund flows this year, and particularly fund flows among the older cohort of retail investors. They say these are folks who tend to invest via funds like ETFs. And their data found, JP Morgan's data found, that those people put $81 billion into bond funds and $44 billion into equity funds this year. Now, the preponderance into bond funds makes sense. Everybody that we've been talking about, almost to a person, has said they like fixed income this year. But they said the shift into these ETFs generally really represents a big change from last year when there was $340 billion in outflows from bond funds, and they didn't buy any equity funds. In other words, what we've been seeing in the market has been backed up by retail investors, especially older retail investors, buying into ETFs, which is really interesting.
OGs of retail trading.
Yeah, I mean, that money is coming back in. Anyway, interesting here. Money's coming back in today, it looks like. Brad, what are you seeing on the Interactive?
Yeah, spitting facts over there on the desk. Dow Jones Industrial Average right now, that's higher by about 0.8% at the gate. We've got green on the screen. It's actually a hat trick, the trifecta, the triple-double, whatever you want to call it up for the U.S. major averages. The Dow Jones up, the NASDAQ Composite higher by about 1.25%. S&P 500 also up. That's up by about 0.9% here. Let's take a brief look at the sector activity. 11 S&P 500 sectors. We've got them all pulled up for you here intraday. We're higher across the board, being led by technology right now. That's up by about 1.5%. Since that's all green, let's take a gander at some of those streaming stocks as well that we've been tracking and see exactly where some of the other major players are moving here. I'm just going to put this on an equal view so you could see what's taking place here. This after Disney reported earnings last night and discussing some of what their pricing strategy may look like. It seems the rest of the streaming street is perhaps taking clues as to what this may mean for themselves here. You've got Roku up by about 1.7%. Warner Brothers Discovery, of course, home of HBO Max, you're seeing that higher by about 1.6%. And then much of the rest of the streaming names also moving higher in concert. You've got Netflix up by about 0.9% as well as Apple and Comcast. So continue to watch those names as we move on throughout the rest of today's trading session.
Real quick, can you humor me and pull up Google? I mean, this is just, Julie's been flagging the move in Google all week. I mean, this has just been an awful week, in large part based on all the enthusiasm off of Microsoft's moves and artificial intelligence. Google had an event this week, and the stock has been absolutely obliterated.
It has been. Yes, this is that obliteration that you're talking about right there, and it moved lower yesterday. And really on much of the conversation around AI and generative AI specifically. And we've continued to discuss with some of our guests that it's not necessarily a zero-sum game. Perhaps there are different iterations of what this may look like within different Google Cloud suites, within the Microsoft corporate and collaboration suites as well. But for Google right now, a lot of the street kind of fading what their AI play has been thus far with Bard.
Yeah, I mean, but there's so many assumptions baked into that drop, right? The idea that Microsoft with this ChatGPT enhanced Bing is going to somehow wipe Googling away, like overnight. I mean, listen, the magnitude of the drop maybe doesn't imply that, but it implies a big loss. And we're going to talk much more, by the way, about Bing, the history of it, what a ChatGPT enhanced Bing looks like later on with our Dan Halley. But it has been sort of the story of the week thus far. Microsoft, as you point out, Brad, has decidedly gone in a different direction up over the past week or so.